Much as you would expect during the springtime, we are seeing baby animals everywhere. And so, as you've probably guessed, I have been obsessed with drawing the baby animals and I can't wait to share some of this process with you. In this video, I'm going to share some basic drawing tips and techniques to help you have more success when drawing realistic baby animals. I see a lot of tutorials for cartoon style baby animals, but not a lot for like realism. And so I wanted to show you how it's very simple to achieve and really a lot of fun, and you can really capture some of the adorable sweetness of these baby animals with ease. As always, we're going to start with a strong reference image. Now, when it comes to any form of baby that is not sleeping, I actually recommend taking a photo. I find it a lot easier to work off of a photograph from something that's living, a little bit more wiggly, and a little bit more rambunctious. So take a photo and make sure that you have it with you. I actually prefer either straight on views or kind of a 3/4 view. The side is also darling because they're just so darn chubby, but you want to make sure that you have a good clear reference image. My husband is also an artist, and I did quiz him, and he said have tons of reference photos if you're going to work with animals, and I have to agree. You might think that you have the perfect photo and you get back and you start drawing it and things are just off, things are looking a little bit wonky. So make sure you have a good solid reference image. It can be on your phone, it can be something that you find on the internet, but a quality reference image could be the difference between an okay drawing and a great one. All right, now that you have your reference image, pull up your paper and you want to work in more rounded shapes for that initial sketch. As you start mapping everything out and figuring out where everything's going to go, make sure you're working more rounded. This is because baby animals are usually rounded anyway. I know a lot of people who like to work with a more angular style, and while that is fine for some areas, especially like architecture or still lifes or even portraiture, if you're going to be working with a baby and you want to have some of that freshness, some of that youth, it actually helps to work with a more organic shape. So make sure you're working with lots of circles, kind of pulling things together and capturing some of that innocence. Now to go with that, yes, while the babies are usually much chubbier, much rounded overall, and while a rounded sketch is fine, keep an eye out for the contrast. So I've found, especially with drawing human babies or with some of these babies, there'll be kind of a curved line for the gut, but to contrast it, you've got a straight back. Same is true if they're like bending over and the curve of the back is showing. Usually the front side then appears to be straight, not concave, but straight. So having that juxtaposition helps to kind of define the form, but I think it helps to start with kind of some of those curves. So keep an eye out, work with curves, but keep an eye out for those straight areas that will help to define the overall structure and help keep it from looking like a cartoon character. Now let's add some detail to our realistic baby animals. Because we're going for some of that realism, we want to add a little bit more detail and a little bit more personality than would be in more of like a cartoon style animal. When you are working with adding fur or feathers or any sort of texture that might be on your animal, make sure that you're working with the growth pattern of the hair that's naturally developed. This applies to feathers as well as fur, downy details, and even the bristles on a baby pig. Make sure that you're not only capturing the individual texture, whether that is something a little bit more long and spiky and grass-like, or something that's a little bit more rounded, or even something that is kind of curly. Trying to capture some of that texture and continuing to follow with the growth pattern or the way that the skin is folding will help your animal go from cartoon to realistic. You don't need to add a lot to get this realism. In fact, some of my favorites are more contour based where I'm not fully shading and everything in. I do love that full shaded look, especially on like a tonal paper, and I think that you can have a lot of fun with that. But one of the keys to shading well, just in general, is following the way the form is already flowing. It really helps to give the animal a more three-dimensional look and communicates to your viewer what exactly is going on. So whether you're defining a cowlick, a ruffle in the feathers, or a tuft that's just naturally developed, or the way that the animal is positioned, whatever it is, the easiest way to add that realism, show some of that depth, and add some shading is by following the natural flow of the hair that's already there. Now I'd love to know, would you be interested in seeing some of the step-by-step processes behind drawing these animals? Obviously, I showed you some of my favorite tips and tricks and the general flow that I follow, but if you'd like to have a little bit more help and draw along with me, let me know in the comment section down below which of the animals I showed you today you'd be most interested in seeing. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe down below. I have lots of other drawing videos and watercolor videos as well. And with that being said, I hope that you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time, happy drawing. Great way to add shading and I don't know.